They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha.
Edwin Ramos, whose face a judge says we cannot show you, has become the poster boy for people opposed to the idea of sanctuary cities. He was back in San Francisco court today, charged with killing a dad and his 2 sons. Ramos is from El Salvador. Now, this case is getting so much attention partly because it comes after revelations that San Francisco sent 4 illegal immigrant teenagers to a Southern California halfway house, and then those teenagers later escaped. Fast forward to today, and the whole issue came to a head on the steps of San Francisco City Hall. CBS 5 political editor Hank Plant says even Mayor Newsom appears ready to make some changes to Sanctuary City. Hank.
Yeah, good evening, Dana. I'm here live in front of the Hall of Justice in San Francisco. You know, there is no question that San Francisco's sanctuary city policy is under fire. Now, today, Mayor Gavin Newsom said he still supports the concept of San Francisco being a sanctuary city, but he does have a panel reviewing the sanctuary city ordinance. About a dozen members of the so-called Minutemen who oppose illegal immigration came to San Francisco City Hall for a protest today, but they were met by 200 loud defenders of immigrant rights. Tempers flared and 2 immigrant rights activists were detained, one for allegedly spitting at the Minutemen and another for allegedly having a stink bomb. The Minutemen said they didn't mind being shouted down.
It doesn't bother me. How can it be interrupted? I've got 14 mics stuck in my face. You know, the message is getting out.
What is the message?
The message is we want to see an end to sanctuary cities across the nation.
But that message was what the pro-immigrant protesters came here to drown out.
They have a right to free speech, but not on the front steps of a city hall that represents openness and acceptance of all communities.
They don't have a right to free speech on the steps of City Hall?
They have a right to free speech, but when it comes to San Francisco City Hall, the city of openness and acceptance, it would be as if the Ku Klux Klan or an anti-gay organization came here.
The Minutemen are especially upset that the suspect in the triple murder of the Bologna family was never deported after his previous arrests.
The Bologna family was slaughtered on June 22nd here. It's a tragedy that never should have happened had the mayor simply made sure that the immigration laws, the federal laws, were enforced in his community.
So we couldn't help asking this of the mayor.
So, Mr. Mayor, the Minutemen have called for you to resign. So will you be resigning anytime soon?
It's not the first time I've been asked to resign. I think it's about the 20th or 30th time. Minutemen are not the kind of people I look for advice or counsel.
No surprises there. Now, as for that sanctuary city ordinance, the mayor said it's time to review it and tighten up the language in it. He wants the police here, the DA, and the courts to all be on the same page. But, Dana, he was very clear that he does support the concept of San Francisco being a sanctuary city.
All right. Hank Plant, thank you very much.
Protests here at City Hall don't require quite so many police officers out here in the street. That's because this is actually 2 protests. If you look over here, you can see there's one group of people standing up on the steps protesting against San Francisco's sanctuary city policy. The other group, several hundred people down here in the street, are asking them to go home. Chanting, brandishing signs, and beating on pots and pans, the counter-protesters outnumbered the so-called Minutemen by hundreds. Perched atop the steps with their signs and American flags, the Minutemen couldn't help but see all the opposition. But armed with earplugs, they tried not to listen.
To me, they're irrelevant, but they're a part of the process, and I don't give them much thought or credence whatsoever.
Down in the street, one man was arrested, accused of throwing something at the Minutemen's leader. In fact, crime is really what this is all about. The folks down here say sanctuary means safety. By not deporting people, you encourage them to report crimes. But the folks up here disagree.
People in the immigrant community don't refuse to report because they're afraid of ICE. They don't report because they're afraid of the thugs. And why shouldn't they be when these thugs are turned loose?
If you break a law and you're here illegally, we would like to see you deported.
The mayor says that's already happening.
1,100 people in the last 18 months alone that have committed crimes that have ended in our jails have been turned over to ICE.
Mayor Newsom pointed to language warning criminals the sanctuary law doesn't apply to them. But after closing a loophole that let juvenile offenders stay in the country, Newsom does want to rework the law.
We're trying to tighten up the language so it's just crystal clear to everybody.
But despite a request from the Minutemen, Newsom won't be resigning. And by the numbers, the pro-immigrant protesters declared victory.
The Minutemen left like a dog with the tail between their legs.
In San Francisco, Jonathan Bloom, KRON 4 News.
The Minutemen, a citizens group fighting illegal immigration, is calling for San Francisco Mayor Gavin Newsom to resign over the city's sanctuary policy. About a dozen members of the anti-illegal immigration group gathered in front of City Hall. They say they came to draw attention to last month's triple homicide of Anthony Bologna and his two sons. Edwin Ramos, a Salvadoran native who benefited from San Francisco's sanctuary policy, is charged with the crime.
This is not all the mayor's fault. I will give him that. But I am putting blame on the mayor and asking for his resignation.
Well, the mayor says he has no intention of resigning and has already begun a comprehensive review of the city's sanctuary ordinance.
And we need to tighten it all up and put it back all together in an appropriate way that maintains the spirit that brought us here in the first place, which I will not back off on, that I believe in principally.
Two people, both immigrant rights advocates who came to protest against the Minutemen, were arrested. The sheriff says they'll likely be cited and released.
The steps of San Francisco City Hall today became the latest front in the battle over immigration. The anti-illegal immigration group, the Minutemen, squared off against immigration rights supporters. At issue was San Francisco's sanctuary policy and the killing of a family. KTVU's Rob Roth reports.
Racists go home! Racists go home!
The triple slaying of the Bologna family brought protesters here to City Hall, where they confronted counter-protesters. Hundreds of immigrant rights supporters jeered as approximately a dozen members of the anti-illegal immigration group, the Minutemen, demanded San Francisco end its policy of being a sanctuary city.
When you're encouraging those with a illegal behavior to come to your city and seek refuge there, that's not good for the safety, the health, and maintenance of the city itself.
Immigration rights advocates prevented the Minutemen from making any speeches by shouting them down. Two immigrant rights supporters were arrested for unruly behavior.
We need to denounce these hate messages, the messages of scapegoating, because if we allow them to go unchallenged, then they become part of the mainstream.
The Southern California-based Minutemen say they came to San Francisco because of their outrage over the killings of a father and two sons last month. The suspect, Edwin Ramos, who appeared in court today, is an immigrant from El Salvador. 4 years ago, police arrested him for assault, but because he was a juvenile at the time, city officials didn't turn him over to immigration officials to face possible deportation because of the sanctuary city policy. The Minutemen say for that, Newsom should resign.
There are consequences to ignoring and neglecting what's good for the community.
Minutemen are not the kind of people I look for advice or counsel in terms of my own performance.
Mayor Newsom says that while he intends to keep San Francisco a sanctuary city, he is reviewing the policy.
We're trying to tighten up the language so it's just crystal clear to everybody.
But some say the policy coddles criminals.
I want the sanctuary city laws ended so it will protect Americans and not people from another country.
To blame crime, in general on the sanctuary law, it's really irresponsible. And look at what it causes. It causes people like the Minutemen to come to our city to raise havoc.
But in a move that's not popular with many immigration rights advocates, Newsom changed one of the policies. Juveniles arrested for felonies are now being turned over to federal authorities. In San Francisco, Rob Roth, KTVU, Channel 2 News.